Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming a great Canadian character actor and occasional musician. His name is Stephen Mendel. I'm having him on the show today because he was on the classic cop show Night Heat back in the 80s, but he was also in the classic underrated sci-fi thriller The Vindicator. He was also a voiceover actor for Fire and Ice, the Ralph Bakshi cartoon movie. And he was on a very great, very beautiful two-part episode of Saved by the Bell that I love, that I want to talk to him about today too. And Ellen Bree made the connection here, and I'm grateful to have him. So here is my interview with Stephen Mendel.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. I've been looking forward to it.
Oh, so, me too.
Are we on now, or are we going to go on?
We're on now. I'm not one of those guys who calls someone and does the intro. I don't like to take up someone's time with that.
Okay.
It's such an honor. Thank you for taking the time today.
Oh no, it's my pleasure. It truly is. I'm sitting here. I've got my, it's 11 o'clock, but I'm having coffee. I got my coffee on one hand, and the phone, which actually I'm going to put down so that I can drink my coffee. And I'm ready to talk about anything that you want to talk about.
Awesome. Well, going back in time, I was reading you began singing at the age of 8. Did you originally want a career in music?
You know, I don't really. I remember singing because I could carry a tune. So I'm 8 years old. I'm at summer camp, and actually, I think that's where it started. And they were doing a musical, and I'm a voice soprano. I mean, my voice is so high that I can shatter windows at 50 paces, and I can carry a tune. And so all of a sudden you put into the camp musical or the school musical, and I learned to sing Michael Row the Boat Ashore, and my father would trot me out whenever people came and to visit and say, sing that song, and I'd go, in my piping high voice, I'd sing Michael Row, whatever it was, Michael Row the Boat Ashore, and I was getting accolades for that. So I don't have a recollection of wanting to be a singer. I did later in high school start doing folk music, because we're talking the '60s,
right?
And Bob Dylan was huge, and growing up in Canada. We had Joni Mitchell, who's Canadian, and we had Gordon Lightfoot, who's Canadian, and we had Ian Tyson, and of course we got everybody who was in the folk music world in the U.S. Of course, playing in Canada. So I started singing and playing the guitar then.
But did you have any acting ambitions at that same time?
I did. The way it happened was this. In high school, they did music. In Canada, where I grew up in Canada, in Montreal, there's only grade 8 through 11. It was high school, and then you went to university. So grades 8, 9, and 10, for me, they did a musical, one musical a year. And basically, I was offered, some kind of a role in the musical, and I did those for 3 years, and it was great fun. In my last year of high school, the English teacher who directed all of the high school musicals decided to do a play. It was a comedy. It was called Romanoff and Juliet, and it was written by a man named Peter Ustinov, and it was a kind of a parable about international relations and Russia and the U.S. and the Cold War. But it was set in a fictional land that had been invaded by every neighboring country over the course of its entire history. Anyway, So he said, do you want to do this? And I said, there's no singing. What? Huh? And he said, no. I said, well, I never did that before. He said, come on out and try. So he cast me. Here I am. I guess I'm 17. Mm-hmm. He cast me as the Archbishop. And I'll never forget the description. It was the Archbishop is ancient with a high, careless voice. And, he's well over 100 years old. So he cast me in this role, and they spray painted my hair silver. And I actually had a little beard at the time. I was, desperately trying to grow a beard. And they kind of put white and silver in that. And I played my very best old man, and people didn't recognize me on stage. And when people found out that was me, they went, "Oh my God, I didn't recognize you. That was fantastic. That was wonderful." Which, of course, to a kid I was a skinny kid. I mean, you could play xylophone on my ribs. And I wore thick glasses, and I had I guess my hair was a little longer then, but to call me a mediocre athlete would be a compliment. To call me an average student would be about right. And to finally get some sort of accolades for doing something was, I have to say this, I'm sorry, music to my ears, please forgive me.
That's okay.
And all of a sudden I was doing something, and people were going, "Wow, you're wonderful, and you're terrific, and you're fantastic." And at that point I decided, I didn't really make a decision, but when I went off to college, I just started taking all the drama courses, and that's what really launched me into the world of acting. And then I still continued to do my folky music because I really like it. I enjoy singing and playing guitar. And then immediately out of college, I got a job in a bar and playing and singing, and it was a piano bar, but it was just me on a stool with a guitar, and they were paying me $300 a week in the 1970s, and to put that into perspective, my rent was $100 a month, and so I was like, a pig in slop. I was rich. Mm-hmm. Believe how much I was making, but bars were not fun and were not particularly satisfying because I was singing there by myself on a stool. So everybody's talking and yelling and screaming and smoking cigarettes. Every night I'd walk out of there, every piece of clothing just reeked of cigarette smoke.
Yeah,
and I'd have to hang my clothes in front of a window. Or in front of a fan to try and get the stench out of them.
Yeah.
So when acting, I had gotten myself an agent up in Montreal, Canada, and I was starting to get voiceover work. I was starting to get acting work. I was starting to get movies and television and commercials. And even though $300 a week was good money, I'd make more than that in a day on a commercial or a voiceover or something like that. So, since I wasn't having a lot of fun in the bars, I kind of, when I started making a good living as an actor, that's where I went. And I just kept going. And here we are, 44. Oh, my God, 44 years later. So,
yeah.
That's how it came about.
Wow. Yeah, going back to Peter Ustinov, yeah, that guy was a genius. Did you ever meet him?
Well, I know I never did meet him. I don't even know if was he still alive in the 60s. I don't.
Yeah, he died about I want to say 15 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, he was a brilliant actor. He was a writer and a director. He was a brilliant man, playwright, obviously. Yes, he was a brilliant man. I don't know that he wrote any other plays. Did you discover any in your travels when you were looking into him?
I don't know if he wrote another play. I know he wrote and directed a couple movies, which
right.
I call him the British Orson Welles, because he was a big guy, and he made his own movies, and he acted, and he was just such a distinguished actor,
Yes, he was.
Yeah. So, according to IMDb, your first movie was an uncredited role in Tomorrow Never Comes.
Yes. Oh, that's a funny story.
Yeah.
Tomorrow Never Comes. That's the one with Raymond Burr and Stephen McCatty and Patty and okay. So I'm right out of college, and I get a call, and I've studied stage combat. Now, the definition of stage combat is you look like you're hurting people or getting hurt, but you're not. Okay? The definition of stage combat. And another equally important, I call it a definition, is that you don't do anything by chance. You choreograph everything. And any stunt person will tell you this. Like you can make it look like you're hitting somebody right smack in the face and actually missing them by a foot if you get the right angle, okay, for the camera. So I get a call. They want I'm being offered to stage a fight scene with the second lead in the movie is this guy named Stephen McCatty.
Yep.
So another guy also from Montreal, and I think we get together with the stunt coordinator, the fight coordinator of the movie, and we choreograph a whole fight where everything is perfectly laid out. Everything's going to go according to this plan, and nobody's going to get hurt. And we spend 3 or 4 days rehearsing it without Stephen McCatty. Stephen McCatty comes in, he gets a day off shooting. He walks into the gym where we're working out, where we're figuring all this out, and he says, "Let's just wing it." And I looked at him, and I'm thinking, I don't want to get hurt. And I said to him, "Well, why don't you talk to Jerome, that's the stunt coordinator, and, work out what you'd like to do with Jerome, and then I'm happy to do anything you want, but I'm really not comfortable with just winging it." Well, Stephen McCatty apparently gets his nose at a joint because I don't want to just wing it with him, calls the director and says, "This actor is not cooperative," and the director calls the stunt coordinator, tells the stunt coordinator to fire me. And I think, what? I mean, I shouldn't use any 4-letter words, right? But I say,
oh, you can.
Okay. So I don't think this is right, and I'm such a beginner at this point that I don't know that a guy like me should never go up to the director and say, "What the hell? You don't know what went on." So I go up to him, and I walk up to the director, and I say, "Why are you firing me? And you haven't heard any of my side of it." He says, "Okay, what's your side?" And I tell him, and he says, "I understand, and it doesn't matter. He's the second lead."
Oh, my God.
So I go, okay, fine. And the director says, "I'll find you something else." I said, okay. And that was one of my first hard lessons, that fair doesn't mean jack shit.
Yeah.
The only thing that matters is the money, because they have to keep him happy for whatever reason. Stephen McCatty. I've seen him since then. I saw him at a party somewhere, but I didn't speak to him of it. I thought to myself, and then I heard that he was half the time in those days he was on cocaine or whatever else. So who knows? But that was, I guess that was my first. I thought my first was also uncredited in a movie with Sophia Loren.
Oh.
I was actually what they called at that time a special skills extra, which is just meant that I was given a task to do on camera, but no lines. But I cameraman in this movie, which was called wait a second. I can't remember. It may or may not come to me, but it was. I was in a kitchen. She owned a hotel or a restaurant, and I was supposed to be kneading dough, and she was on the telephone. Nothing to do with me. Talking on the telephone 3 feet away, and it was all I could do not to stare at her. And she was so stunningly gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Long time ago.
Yeah. Oh my God. But that first movie though, Tomorrow Never Comes, I mean, was that just intimidating to be on a set with that, legendary talent? I mean, there was like Oliver Reed and Donald Pleasance and Raymond Burr and John Ireland.
Well, I tell you what I ended up doing on the movie was I was Oliver Reed's stand-in. Now, what that means is that I was on the set anytime. Do you know what a photo stand-in is, or what he does?
Yeah, he's supposed to when the director is trying to figure out the angle, they need someone to be the same size as the actor in the movie.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
I was taller than he was, but apparently they didn't care. One of my first job was actually Donald Sutherland. I was a stand-in for Donald Sutherland because he and I are actually the same height and about the same build. 6'3", although I was a lot skinnier then. But Oliver Reed. So, all right. So, the stand-in is there so they can focus the camera and check the lights and everything else. So this is another one that I will never, ever forget as long as I live. Mm-hmm. I am standing in the middle of a green, not a field. It's a quadrangle in surrounded by buildings. It's a green grassy area, and there's nothing else on it except grass. It's out in the sun, and they're focusing and whatever they're doing, and I'm standing there, and they call for they say first team. We're ready for first team. So that's the actor. So I step out. Now, I don't know whether they're just going to shoot. Maybe they're going to move camera and need me again. So I just walked off to the side. And I walk off. Oliver Reed comes in. He stands on the mark. And for some reason, the cameraman or the director of photography or whoever, they walk away from the camera for a minute to do something. And I have no idea what they walked away, but there's nobody at the camera. And Oliver Reed stands there for about 15 seconds. And then he looks over. Mm-hmm. He sees there's nobody at the camera. And at the top of his lungs, I mean, the biggest bellow I've ever heard in my life, he roars out, "There's no one looking at me!" And he walks off the set back to his trailer. I never forgot it. Never forgot it, Oliver Reed. I never met Raymond Burr because I didn't work on the same days. Mm-hmm. I did meet Donald Pleasance, and I met him again some years later in, I can't remember. I met him, who was the guy who played Fagin in Oliver Twist? Ron Moody. Sorry, I had the two of that, but I did meet Donald Pleasance again on another movie. Montreal they were just shooting stuff there because it was cheap, and they were getting tax credits, and so it was a busy time in the mid to late 70s.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Wow, yeah, that's like the golden age of movie stars and acting. I mean, there's.
Well, I don't know. It all depends on who you, on how old you are and what your perspective is on movie making. I mean, the golden age, who knows? I don't know. I mean, there's some people who say the golden age was like the 40s and the 50s with Clark Gable and those guys. But there was a lot of action in Canada at the time, and it was all because of the tax laws.
Yeah.
So you could call it the golden age in Canada, that's for sure.
Then you did voiceover work for Ralph Bakshi's Fire and Ice.
Oh God, you're really making me call up memories that I haven't thought about in a long time. So I get this call, and again, this is something that I'll never forget. I'm new in Los Angeles at the time. It's somewhere in the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a call from my then agent. This guy, Ralph Bakshi, wants to meet you and audition you for this voiceover role. I said, okay. Now, I don't really know who Ralph Bakshi is at this time. I've never seen Felix the Cat.
Fritz.
That was the first X-rated animated feature.
Right.
I think it was X-rated.
Yeah.
So I drive. Now, do you know Los Angeles? You're on the West Coast, right? Where are you?
I'm in Redding, California, but I know LA pretty well.
Okay. So I'm living in Hollywood,
mm-hmm.
and this Ralph Bakshi's office is way up in the valley. There's this very long street that runs north-south. I mean, it goes Laurel Canyon, which becomes Crescent Heights. It's this long street. I mean, it just runs from north to south in the valley, the complete distance. And I'm driving to this address that I've never been before, and I am going and going and going and going and going. I mean, I've never been where this guy's office is. And I eventually get to it. It's way up in what we call the North Valley. And it's this two-story, it looks like a Tudor styled office building. It's 2 stories. It's all wood, and there's stucco, and there's wood trim on the outside. And anyway, so I go in, and somebody shows me into a room, and here's this enormously fat man,
mm-hmm.
and he's not either sitting or lying down on this couch. He's kind of reclining,
mm-hmm.
He's halfway lying down on the couch. And he says to me, and the role is Prince Necron, Nekron, and the movie was called Fire and Ice. And he says to me, I want to hear Roddy McDowell doing Hamlet on a very bad day. So that was the direction. Now, I had heard the direction before, so I somehow, and this is the early 80s, so there's no internet, there's no YouTube, there's none of these things. So I don't remember off the top of my head how I got it, but Roddy McDowell has a bit of a high-pitched voice, much higher than mine,
mm-hmm.
and of course he's British. By the way, I did meet Roddy McDowell years later. I'll tell you that if that's of any interest. I did meet him.
Sure.
Many years later. So I get in there and I have an idea. So I start doing this voice. I don't remember lines, but it was this high-pitched British accent, and Prince Necron is screaming about not having his wishes met or whatever it was. And he casts me. So, and that was it. And I went in. I think I spent one day in a recording studio. I think we ended up doing it at Paramount Studios, but that was the Ralph Bakshi. I never saw him again, by the way. That was it. Never saw him again.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him on. I know a guy who interviewed him a couple of times, and he was pretty good to talk to.
Uh-oh. Well, wait a minute. Don't ever play that. I didn't think he was still with us.
Yeah. He's like in his 80s, so.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, he won't know who I am. He won't remember. I'm sure he won't remember.
Yeah.
But I did meet Roddy McDowell.
Yes.
Years and years later, somewhere in the 90s, I think it was. I was doing a mini series. I'm trying to think of all the people who were in it. There were some amazing people from L.A. Law, a guy and his wife. They were in it. The names are escaping me. I'm going to have a look at the
L.A. Law.
I'm just going over to my iPad now. I don't know if you can tell the difference in the sound. I've just gone into a quieter room. So I'm going to go and look it up because I can't remember. Jill Eikenberry.
Oh yeah.
married to the short guy, guy who's shorter than she was. Anyway, there were some fantastic people in this thing, and if I can get to my own IMDb page, because I cannot remember the name of the thing. But it was fantastic. I had a very, very nice time. I worked with Roddy McDowell. I was playing an agent, a Hollywood agent. And let's see, I'm on the page. Here we are. Let's go back in time. Good Lord. There's a lot of things on here. How do you remember all of that? Let's see. An Inconvenient Woman is what it was called. It was a miniseries, and I played a character named Joel Zircon. Jason Robards was in it.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca De Mornay was in it, and I did meet and talk to all of those people because I was on this thing for a couple of weeks. Peter Gallagher was in it. A very nice guy. Had some nice chats with him.
Mm-hmm.
Spoke very, very briefly with Jason Robards. And I think he was not a young man at the time, and you don't want to impose on him. I worked with Roddy McDowell, and I had scenes with Roddy McDowell and an actor named Paxton Whitehead.
Oh yeah, he was great.
And David Margulies, I had scenes with him, and I'm right underneath him. I'm looking here to see who else I met and talked to. And who else, people go on to amazing things, sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Meet them when, this brings something to mind. I did this TV series in the 80s. I did 5 years on a cop show.
Night Heat.
Called Night Heat.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you who Keanu Reeves came and did his very first ever on-camera role, and nobody even looked at him twice. Oh. Nobody thought anything about him. Who else did? There was a woman who did. Her name was Lolita Davidovich.
Oh yeah.
She was very pretty. A very pretty woman. And another woman named Jessica Steen, who had some stuff go on. But lots and lots of people came through Night Heat and got their very first, appearance on camera and their very first experience on camera.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was, an Inconvenient Woman. And we brought this up because why? Why did I bring it up?
Because you met Roddy McDowell.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, that was kind of interesting. I guess I should go back and look at my own, because I don't know. I'm looking at what you're looking at, and that way we're on the quote same page. We know what we're doing. All the way. Oh my God! So you're going back all the way back to looks like Tomorrow Never Comes, Fire and Ice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then I came to Los Angeles. Now I did a lot of work in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I started professionally in 1976. So there's TV shows and some movies and a ton of voiceover work before I left Canada in 1981. So there's all kinds of stuff in there. Is there anything else that you'd like to ask about?
There's plenty.
Okay, go ahead.
Plenty.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so getting into Night Heat, how did you get cast on that show?
Well, okay, you're asking, and I'm happy. That's another funny story.
Go ahead.
1984, and my baby brother, who's seven years younger than I am,
mm-hmm.
getting married. I moved to Los Angeles in 1981, and I have not yet been home. I have not been home to visit the family in, 2.5 or whatever it was, almost 3 years. So he's getting married on July the 1st of 1984.
Mm-hmm.
So I scheduled a trip home, and I decide, well, I'll go the week before, and I'll stay a week afterwards, and I'll visit and, have catch up with everybody. So I fly into Montreal, and the first thing that happens is I reconnect with some friends of mine, one of whom was an actor, and he said, well, why don't you come meet my agent? So I went to meet his agent, and his agent in Montreal says, well, we got this TV show happening. And the dog, sorry, that's the dog popping in the background. And I said, okay, why not? So I get cast in the TV show. And then the agent says, well, there's this movie. And I go out for this movie, and they cast me in the movie. Now, I'm kind of laughing in a way because I'm the same person I was 2 years previous. I'm the same exact guy. There's not been any monumental, earth-shaking change in me. The only thing that's different is I have now worked on the 3 networks, and on my resume is ABC, NBC, and CBS. And not big deal shows, not big deal roles or anything. I'm at this point, I'm still, learning and making my way and getting some experience. That's the only difference. And all of a sudden, people in Canada are going, oh my goodness, we got to get you on our show. And I'm just kind of laughing because I'm thinking, yeah, right, yeah. So I took the money, but it made me miss my flight back to Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. So I get, I'm doing 2 TV shows. I'm doing a movie. I get a couple of commercials. And I'm just taking it all in. Okay, you want to hire me? That's fine. Give me the money. And then I get cast in a movie, a feature film, and I get a very nice role in the feature film, but it doesn't start shooting for a month. And I think to myself, it's summertime. And then I find out that I can't even get a flight back to Los Angeles because it's the Olympics are going on in Los Angeles in 1984. So I thought, all right, one of my friends says, I'm going to go to Toronto, which is an hour flight or a 5-hour drive from Montreal. I'm going to go to Toronto for a few days. You want to go? Sure, I'll go to Toronto. Why not? I go to Toronto, and this same friend says, come meet my agent. Okay, so I go to meet his agent. And in Toronto. And the agent looks at my resume and says, they're casting this pilot. And today's the last day of casting. Do you want me to see if I can get you in? I went, sure, I don't care. Why not? As I really did. So I get the piece of the scene that they want me to read for. And I go in. And it's, for me, I find the scene is supposed to be somewhat comedic because you got a dead body on the ground. It's a cop show. There's a dead body, and the dead body has a gold Rolex on it. It's still there, and a wallet filled with $100 bills, and fancy clothes and fancy shoes, and I'm there with my ostensible partner, and the 2 leads of the show come in, and they want to take over the case. So I decided that it would be really funny. And so I stood up and I laughed and I said, you want it, you got it. Look at this. He's got all this stuff. You want to solve this one? Fine. Have it on, have you take the case. And I laughed. Mm-hmm. And the producer was a man, and this is a little bit of a sad connection. Man's name was Sonny Grosso, Grosso. Mm-hmm. Grosso. He's the producer, the creator of the show. And he says to me, yeah, that was okay. You mind doing it again and maybe don't find it quite so funny? I said, sure. So I did it again. And he said, good. Now, I had a beard. I've had a beard of one sort or another for much of my adult life. Mm-hmm. And he says to me, will you mind shaving off your beard? And I'd already been booked on this movie that's going to start in 3 weeks, and I've got a beard in the movie. I mean, I've already been cast with the beard, and I'm not going to shave it off. So I just look at him. I don't tell him an explanation. I just said, no. And he looks at me and he says, good answer. He has a beard, very gray, but he has a beard. So I discover, I go back to Montreal, and a few days later, I get a call from my agent. They want you to be in this pilot. And I said, well, is there any more than that one scene? And my agent says, no, that's it. And I said, I'm not interested. Because in my mind, I got a feature to do in a couple of weeks. And as soon as that's done, I'm going back to Los Angeles. I'm not hanging around for this. So I said, nah, I'm not interested. Thank you very much. Now, understand that this is unusual for me. I don't usually say no. I said yes to almost anything. But I said no, didn't. And the other thing too was that they wanted me to get back to Toronto on my own dime and put myself up on my own dime. They would only book me as a local Toronto, and I said no, not going to do it. Anyway, a couple hours later, the phone rings, and it's Sonny Grosso, and he's on the phone. He says, "I want to welcome you to our little family." And I said, "Well, I'm not. I haven't joined the family." He says, "Why not?" And I tell him, I said, "Look, there's nothing for the character to do, and when I'm done with my work here, I'm going back to LA." And he says, and he explains to me, he says to me, "Listen, if this series goes, we're really going to develop these characters. And I'd really like you to be a member of our family." Now, I had a Sally Field moment. Oh my God. This producer, he wants me. He likes me. And so I said yes. Now, they never really developed the characters. I was very often a very well-paid extra. I mean, all right, there were episodes when I'd be in one scene and I'd have, a line or two. But they still paid me, as a series regular. But it's like, oh, God, okay. But the truth is, I would still be doing it today. I would never have walked away from a steady gig. The sad part is that just last month, on January 24th, Sonny Grosso passed away. And do you know who he was?
No.
Okay. Do you remember there was a movie, I think it was, I'm not remembering now when it was shot, The French Connection. Starred Roy Scheider and
Gene Hackman.
Thank you, Gene Hackman. Okay, that movie was based on a real case that the NYPD broke. Sonny Grosso and his partner Eddie Egan were the real NYPD detectives who broke the French Connection case and were the technical advisors on the movie. And that was the man that I stayed friendly with for 30 years. I'd see him whenever I went to New York. He didn't ever leave New York. But I'd see him and I'd have dinner with him. When I went to New York, he had a favorite restaurant called Rao's, R-A-O apostrophe S, which is in Harlem, which is probably the most difficult restaurant to get into in New York because it's tiny. And it's like at one table is the Attorney General of the state of New York and a Supreme Court Justice of the state of New York, and the next table over are two mob guys. That's the kind of place it was.
Oh, wow.
But I ended up doing the pilot, and then I went back to Montreal to start shooting my movie, and they started shooting. They did get picked up for another 5 or 6 episodes. So, and God knows why this happened, but the production coordinators on the 2 shows would speak, and they would figure out how I could go from Montreal to Toronto and shoot my day or two on night heat, and then come back to Montreal and continue shooting on the movie. They worked it out. It was, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And one of the things I got to do that I really loved was, instead of flying to Toronto, I would there's an overnight train. I don't know if it still exists, but you can get on a train at midnight in Montreal, and get a little sleeper, and wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning in Toronto and vice versa. And I used to love to do that. It was great. Yeah. I'd finish working on one movie, the movie or the TV show. I'd go to the train station and I'd just sleep all the way to the other city. It was great. Just great.
I know that was before cell phones. You couldn't set the alarm because you were risking getting off at the wrong stop.
Well, luckily for me, the train those were the end of the line for those two trains. They went back and forth between Montreal and Toronto. But it was not before cell phones, but cell phones were very rare and very expensive because we had on the set of Night Heat, we had the one cell phone. It was the set phone. And it was called the Brick. It was made by Motorola. It looked like a World War II walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
It was huge. And they had that on the set wherever we were. And that's, I was a very early adopter. I got my first cell phone in 1989.
Wow.
Love technology. Love it.
Yeah. And then that movie, was that The Vindicator?
Yes.
Yes. A very underrated sci-fi classic, I have to say. What was that experience like?
Well, that was actually a great deal of fun. First of all, the original name, and I like the original name better, was called The Frankenstein Factor.
Huh.
Frankenstein Factor, which I thought was a great title. And I'm still in touch. It's so funny. I've met so many people over the course of the years. It's called The Vindicator. Hang on, I got to go back down and find it. Because God knows, because I'm still in touch with where is it? What year was that?
86.
Thank you. 86. Okay, going back down to 86. There it is. Okay. So, the Vindicator was, who was the lead on that? Come on, move over there.
David McElrath played Frankenstein.
Okay, David McElrath, I've seen a couple of times. Terry Austin, I've seen once or twice. Richard Cox, I bumped into once in a blue moon.
Mm-hmm.
Pam Grier was great. She was a really, really nice lady. Maury Chaykin passed away.
Oh, he was brilliant.
He was a brilliant actor and a very quirky kind of a guy. I mean, I worked a couple of I was in that with him. He did Night Heat, and I must have been in something else with him. Mm-hmm. Catherine Disher was a very she did something not on that movie, on a mini series I did. We can come back to it. It was funny. We were doing believe it or not, a bedroom scene, and she plants a big kiss on my forehead, which leaves red lipstick on my forehead, and she thought it would be very funny, and the director called a cut and said, "Catherine, please," because I didn't know that she was doing that, and that I was just going on about my business. The Vindicator, well, it was a great deal of fun. I got to burn my initials microscopically into an orange with an actual medical grade laser.
Oh, wow.
It was actually a lot of fun. I got to, let's see what else. The story was that the company is working on a suit, a Mars survival suit that will keep an astronaut alive, even if they get a serious injury of some kind. It's designed to keep the astronaut alive. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to remember why, but the owner of the company, played by Richard Cox, wants to bring it to Mars. If I'm remembering correctly, David McElrath is the scientist who's working on the suit, and he's telling the boss, "It's not ready, it's not ready, it's not ready." And the boss says, "I don't care if it's not ready. We're going to lose $1 billion if we don't deliver it on time." And, the scientist says, "Well, I'm not going to do it." And so the boss has him killed. And somehow or another, McElrath, the character, gets into the suit, which keeps him alive, even though he's horribly mangled and burnt and whatever. And he just goes a little nuts and he kills me by, let's see, I think he reaches through a wall. I'm hiding behind a wall. He reaches through the wall, pulls me through the wall, and throws me out a window. That's how my character dies in this particular movie. But I let them pull me through the wall, and I did not let them throw me out a window, though, because that I thought was a little more than I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But that was boy, you're making me this. You're leading me down memory lane here. That's quite interesting.
That's what I do.
Well, it's working. So,
you did an episode of the Alfred Hitchcock Presents revival.
Oh, well, that was fun. I got to kind of play the red herring in that movie. Yeah, and it was a good. What was her name?
Kathleen Quinlan.
Yes. She was terrific. I was like playing her next door neighbor, and you'd think that I'm going to do something bad or nasty, and the character does not do anything bad or nasty, but he kind of like looks like he's going to be evil. You know what you did? I'll tell you what. The other one that was kind of fun, The Enigma of Bobby Pittman, which was before that. That was written and directed. Eugene Levy.
Oh yeah, Eugene Levy.
He was so terrific and so funny, and that was a one-day shoot, and we were playing. I was playing like a publicist or something like that, and we improvised and we had fun and we just had a wonderful time. And what's interesting for me is like I've seen him once or twice in LA at like for many years the Canadian consulate here would sponsor all kinds of events and kind of parties and celebrations, and I was for a while I was on the list, if you will. I mean, I was invited to a lot of things at the Canadian consulate, and I saw Eugene a few times over there. I also met Norman Jewison there, which I wanted to do, which was great fun. But I have a friend up in Vancouver who had some reason to be in contact with Eugene Levy, and mentioned my name to Eugene, and apparently Eugene remembered me, which I thought how unusual and how nice to hear. I didn't think that it was that there would be that much of an impact, because I've truly met a lot of fascinating people in my life. I met Burt Lancaster when I was 22 years old, and I met William Shatner, who's not a very nice man, when I was 26 years old, and I met Jason Robards. Now, to me, and Sophia Loren, when I'm 23 years old. Now, to me, these are amazing things. Oh my God, I'm meeting this amazing person. I worked with Tom Hanks. I worked with Steven Spielberg. But there's no way that I really don't. I have no expectation that these people are going to remember me, because they meet thousands upon thousands of people. Donald Sutherland explained it to me. There I was. It were 1976. It's been my very first job. I'm a stand-in for Donald Sutherland. And I was on this movie for 6 weeks. And I was a rank beginner. I mean, I'm just out of college. I've got my Bachelor of Arts in Theater with me, but I know I don't know anything. So I don't say anything. I'm not trying to be best buddies with him. They call me, I stand in. When they release me, I walk away. And Donald didn't say anything to me for the first week or two. And then after about a week or two, he started kidding around with me and kibitzing with me and talking to me. And I thought, well, that's great, wonderful. And at the end of the movie, I said to him, it was great. I really liked it. But, it took you 2 weeks to even talk to me. And you hadn't talked to me, I never would have talked to you.
Mm-hmm.
He said, look, Donald Sutherland says, I do 2, 3, 4 movies a year. Every time I do a movie, I meet 100 people or more.
Yeah.
And there's an artificial intimacy that's created when you work on a movie or a TV set. You are with these people 12, 13, 14, 16 hours in a day. And then he says the movie's over and you never see them again. So he says, I don't really want to create wonderful bonds of friendship with people and then never see them again. So he says, I try to stay away, but you were standing there and looking so forlorn. So he took pity on me and he chatted with me.
That's great.
But that's what I meet all these people. I don't expect any of them to really remember me. So and I'm always surprised if and when they do. I was surprised when Eugene told my friend that he actually remembered me. And according to my friend, he really did, because he said, oh, yeah, he did such and such and so on the Enigma of Bobby Bittman. And he says, I think I met him again in Los Angeles. And he must be one of these people with, a photographic memory, because otherwise I can't imagine him, he must have a special memory, because otherwise there's no other explanation in my mind.
Yeah. I love that 2-part Christmas episode you did of Saved by the Bell.
Wow. I don't remember anything about the casting process. I remember vividly.
Mm-hmm.
I remember vividly being on the set and asking, and I don't know, somebody else asked me about this recently, and I can't remember who it was, but I'm on the set of this show, and I'm having a good time. They're treating me very well. The young woman who played my daughter was a doll. The kids who were playing kids at the time on that show were mostly pretty sweet and not full of themselves. But I remember when you're shooting shows that are done in a studio on video cameras, generally speaking,
mm-hmm.
they'll have the sets will all have 3 walls, and their television cameras, their video cameras, will be in a big hallway, if you will, between all the sets, so they can move around quite freely. So 3 walls, no ceiling. The cameras, there'd be 3 cameras. They can move around as they want, and the director is not there on the floor of the studio. He's up in a control room somewhere else, on the 2nd floor, looking in monitors and saying, give me camera 1, give me camera 2, camera 3 come in for a side shot, switch to camera 3. And if you have a question, you kind of either look up at the sky or the ceiling and ask your question, or you ask a question to somebody who's got a headset on and is talking to the control room. Mm-hmm. So I asked if I could change a line. I mean, some minor little change, switch a 2 for a 4 or a but or a the, and the answer came back over the loudspeaker, no, just do the line as written. And it was like an inconsequential change that would have made it easier for me to say it. I went, all right, I guess I know what's going on here. But that was fun. And they had me, okay, so I learned how to play a song on the piano, because I don't play piano, I play guitar. And I learned how to play a song, and they decided on the day of shooting that they weren't going to do the song, but I learned they were going to do something else.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was now. I don't remember what I learned on the piano. No, but that's how long ago was that? That's what year is that?
That's almost 30 years ago.
Oh my God!
Almost.
Goodness gracious. Okay, that's a long time ago. Yep.
But it's funny. I appreciate that episode a lot more now, because my mother and I, we were homeless for a few years, exactly the same way as those 2 characters.
Oh my gosh.
We live in an age now where the stereotype of homeless people is, drug addicts who are just horrendous people and stuff, right? But no, we were wearing normal clothes. We were not, begging for change outside of supermarkets or living under underpasses or any of that stuff. We were living in our car, and we were crashing on people's couches and stuff. And just, I have so much respect for that episode more than I ever did.
How long ago was that?
Let's see, it started at the end of 2013 and it carried into early 2017.
Wow, 4 years. Oh my God, almost 4 years.
Yeah. And during that time I had a car accident and I was in a coma for 30 days. I mean, it was a mess. Yeah.
Wow.
It was a mess.
I can't imagine. It must have been pretty tough. But now, how did you guys manage to get out of that and get yourself established somewhere? How did it come about?
Well, so my mom, so after we lost our apartment and everything, and her ex-boyfriend stolen all our money and everything, my mom was going up here to Reading from the Bay Area, because that's where we're born and raised, in the Bay Area. She was coming up here to Reading, and she was making contacts up here and stuff, right? And then the problem was that we didn't have good credit to get another place up in the Bay Area. So we found an apartment up here that they don't care how good your credit score is or not. So that's how we got reestablished, and it's suited us very well.
Oh, good. I'm really glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Really, really glad to hear that. Oh my goodness gracious.
It was scary. Yeah, it was pretty scary.
Oh.
Now I'm trying to get down to LA. That's my goal.
Yeah. Well, so what do you want to do in LA?
Well, I've been a comedian in open mic for like 14 years. I want to do stand-up over there. I've acted in a few things. I've done a couple movies that haven't been released yet. I want to do that. I have a movie I wrote, trying to get financing for. I just want to do, everything pretty much that I can do, that I believe in myself for.
Oh, good. That's fantastic. Wow. So, and this podcast, what made you start this podcast, or what do you have a goal with the podcast?
Well, when we got up here, I realized there's no show business up here. We have 2 theater companies. I tried to get involved with them. They were not very nice to me. And I just thought, oh God, what can I do? And in 2016, before we moved up here, my mom, she had this great job, and she got me the best birthday present ever. She got me a ticket to see Kevin Smith, the writer-director. He was doing a screening for a new movie of his at the time. And during the show, he made this great speech about the podcast world and how everyone should start a podcast to communicate and stuff. And it really motivated me. So, we were not living in, a stable situation at the time. So I said, okay, as soon as we get a place, I am going to start a podcast. And that's what I did. And at first it was kind of hard, and I didn't think I was going to get past 10 episodes, but I'm coming up on 700 episodes pretty soon.
Wow. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And now do you have, are there, how do people do this? Where do people get to hear your podcast? What do they sign on to?
My particular podcast, you can go on YouTube. I have a channel, and on the profile, it's a picture of me and Robert Englund taking a photo op at a convention, and you can just click on the episode and listen to it.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that is really fascinating that you have any questions about?
Couple more things really quickly.
Sure. Not at all.
How was working on Stepfather 3?
There was another guy who, the same guy wrote and produced and directed Stepfather 3. I have to go to it and find it there. It's Stepfather 3. Let me just find it. him, 1992. There it is. I have to look at these things because I don't remember. Guy Magar. So he wrote it. He was a producer, and he directed it. And I was kind of the red herring. I was not the stepfather, but you were supposed to think I was the stepfather for a little while, until the stepfather kills me. So anyway, and Priscilla, what was her last name? I was in a class with her, Priscilla Barnes.
Oh, I love Priscilla. She's trying to make time to come on the podcast. I love her.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't really remember Robert Whiteman that well. I mean, I think the only connection I had with him was when he killed me. Priscilla, acting class with. Susan Hubley, I met her and talked to her. Jay Acabone I bumped into every so often. He's a cool guy. He's a nice guy. I don't remember who else was in it, but here's what it was. So I have this scene where the stepfather, Keith Grant, he's trying to horn in because I'm having some sort of relationship with Priscilla Barnes, and the line was, "You and I need to have a serious talk about a certain little lady by the name of," whatever the character's name was, Jennifer or Christine or whatever it was. And I turned to Guy, who had written the damn thing, and I say, "Guy, would you mind if I just walked up to him and maybe stuck my finger in his chest and said, 'You and I need to talk'? And then he kills me." No, I like that line the way I wrote it. "You and I need to have a serious talk about a certain little lady by the name of." I thought, this is the most convoluted and stupid sounding line I've ever heard in my life. Let's just make it shorter. "You and I need to talk." Wouldn't let me do it. Would not let me change one comma in any of his precious dialogue. And I thought, okay, that's it. I'm just gonna, all right. I'll deliver the line as it is, but it's gonna be hard to make it sound like a human being because human beings don't really talk like that. But anyway, that's my vivid recollection of Stepfather Part 3. For a long time I thought I was going to do nothing but bad sequels to bad movies.
Yes, which brings me to the next one, Scanner Cop 2.
Well, that was kind of cool because I met Robert Forster,
yeah,
who was a great guy. And where's Scanner Cop? Let me hang on. I'm just going to go to it because I gotta go to it and find. Yeah, there it is. Okay, Detective Jim Mull. So I'm playing the normal partner to the Scanner Cop, and so Danny Quinn, who passed away a couple of years ago it just he apparently had an undiagnosed, unknown heart condition, and he was quite very young. He was very young. I would bump into him every so often. Again, Patrick Kilpatrick has got to be one of the greatest villains that I've had the pleasure of meeting. I bump into him every once in a while. He said something to me. I said, "Patrick, you're always working. What do you attribute that to?" And he looked at me and he said, "I give great auditions." And I said, "Oh, okay." Let's see. Christine Hodge, I just, met her, talked to her, that was all. Robert Forster, as you know, he passed away just, I think, last year. And I used to have breakfast or lunch with him every once in a while. I'd meet him. He had a favorite haunt in Los Angeles. It was called the Silver Spoon Restaurant on Santa Monica Boulevard. And I would, every once in a while, we'd talk. I'd call him. Or I was in L.A. and I'd call him up and I said, "I'm in L.A. Where are you?" He said, "I'm at the Spoon. Go on down." And I would bump into him at this place or that place. And nice man. Who else was in that movie?
Did you like the original Scanners?
Well, I was I don't think it's on my my resume, but I was in a movie I was right way back at the beginning. Oh God, just let me think of what it was called. It was one of David Cronenberg's first movies, and it starred a woman who was a porno queen. What the heck was that called? Was it not The Plague? What was it called? Hold on. We'd have to look at David Cronenberg's. But I was in one of his very first movies. Marilyn Chambers was the woman.
Oh, you're talking about Rabid?
That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So I was in Rabid, but it was my whole part was I jumped on somebody's car with green foam coming out of my life, and somebody shot me, and then I was thrown into the back of a garbage truck. That was my whole part in that movie. I was 23 years old, and I think that may have been my first or second job, something like that. So I was in a David Cronenberg movie, and then this was the Scanner Cop was one of his movies, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The first one.
Well, Scanners, was the first one.
Scanners, or something like that. Yeah. So I vaguely remember it. I don't have vivid memories of it. I like science fiction. I mean, I'm a huge science fiction reader since I was a kid, and I like to go to all of the the big movies, the Star Wars and the Star Treks and the what was the one with the avatars and all of those movies. I love those things. Absolutely love them.
Yeah.
So it was great fun to be in Scanner Cop 2, but I mean, like I said, I thought for a long time I was going to be, a Stepfather Part 3, Scanner Cop 2. I must have done more like those because I have a recollection of doing that kind of stuff for a while. I don't even remember Stepfather 3, Scanner Cop 2, whatever it was. So, but my career has been wide and varied, and it goes from TV to movies to soap operas to short films to video games to animated features. You name it. I think I have done every legitimate thing that a full-time actor can do.
Yes, you have.
Over the course of my closing in on 44 years as an actor.
How did you get to do the voice of Splinter in the Ninja Turtles cartoon?
Well, the truth is I auditioned for it. And what I know a Canadian producer who lived in Los Angeles for a few years, and he produced, hold on a second, what was it called? I'll think of that. I'm looking. It was called Final Round. He was the producer of Final Round, and somebody cast me in that one. But I met this man who's, it's going to come to me. It will come to me just a minute because I think he ended up directing the damn thing because they fired the director. This guy, the director was originally a guy named George Urshbaumer, but they fired him and he was replaced by the man that I know. Anyway, he was up in Vancouver and they were shooting some stuff up in Vancouver, and he called me and said, "You want to audition for this?" And I said, "Sure." So I went and listened to whoever had done Splinter in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I said, well, I can do something like that. I can, I didn't want to try and do it. I'm not an impressionist. Like I don't like imitate perfectly things. So I said, well, I can get pretty close to that. And I recorded an audition and sent it up, and they cast me, and it was and the way things are done between the U.S. and Canada. So they were shooting. People go to Canada to shoot things because they can do them cheaper. There's no other reason for anybody to go away from Los Angeles unless they have some fantastic location that they need, like, they need to shoot in the Grand Canyon, or they need to really shoot in New York. Other than that, there's no reason to go anywhere unless you're going to save some money. And that's the reason why the Canadian film and television industry goes through booms and busts. It has to do with the relative value of the Canadian dollar to the U.S. dollar, and various tax shelter things that are created by the government, and the various tax deals that municipalities and the provinces will give to production. So they can go up and they can do something for half of what it would cost in the U.S. That's what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. So, what's the name of the production company? He's huge. Sorry, I'm just it'll come to me. Anyway, so they went up to shoot the thing in Canada, and the guys who were hired, the way that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it was live action in Canada. So they had guys, actors, stunt guys in turtle outfits with heads on that were operated, the eyes and the mouth of the head was operated remotely by somebody called an animatronic engineer. That's how they hired them in Canada, animatronic engineers. Now, animatronic engineers, as they hired in Canada, were not eligible for residuals. And they were hired at a particular rate. Saban, Saban was the name of the production company. Saban Production. So the people who were the animatronic engineers, had been hired as animatronic engineers, discovered that if they got themselves reclassified as puppeteers, they would get paid more and they would get residuals. So they applied to be reclassified. I don't know who they replied to. So the producer, I don't remember who it was, went to them. Not the fellow I know, but the producer from the U.S. went to them and said, "Look, we hired you under this classification because we can do this project for this much money. And if you get yourselves reclassified as puppeteers, that'll be great for you, but you're going to lose the job because we're not going to continue filming. We're not going to continue producing the series. We're going to cancel the series." And that's exactly what happened. They got themselves reclassified as puppeteers, and Saban Productions said, "Okay, it's too expensive. That's it. We're not doing it." And they pulled the plug. So, it was one of those things where they called the guy's bluff, and the guy came through. He said, "Okay, bye." So everybody lost their job. All the actors, all the production people, everybody lost the job because these guys wanted to get reclassified. Because that's another one. I was very happy going up there for a couple of days every few weeks and voicing the character, and then coming home. And I ended up getting a few other jobs in Vancouver as well. So I was more than a little bit annoyed, shall we say.
Yeah. I was a big Ninja Turtles fan when I was a little kid. I think my parents were happy when I grew out of that phase, though, because I had everything Ninja Turtles. For me, I don't know whether it's sad to say, but it was a job, and I had fun. I would have done it. I was actually more than a little disappointed that I didn't even get a chance to audition for the movies that they did down here. Yeah.
Next, I just discovered, they're making the movies coming out, and that's all. That was it. I never even got a chance because I would have loved to have done it.
Yeah.
The difference is that doing stuff down in the U.S. means more money. Sorry, I'm leaning away from the thing here. It means more money. It means residuals. It means money in my pension fund and my health account. You gotta have health insurance and all the rest of that. So sure, I'll go to Canada because he wants to hire me, but I sure would be much happier to do the jobs down here.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, you have to be pragmatic about it. You have to say, okay, look, I need to make a living, and I need to, fund my pension plan, and I need to make sure that I maintain my health insurance and all the rest of it. You gotta do that kind of stuff. You gotta think about that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any upcoming projects that you can talk about?
Well, I've gone back to my musical roots. I started playing music again, and I recorded my first album,
Nice.
which is called "Sing Me a Story." It's under my name. It's Stephen Stephen Mendel Mendel, and it's on Spotify, and it's on iTunes and Google Music and Pandora and everything else. So if people want to give it a listen, that'd be terrific. Love to hear what people think. And I'm playing. I have two groups going right now. I have my own little acoustic trio, and we have a gig coming up on Valentine's Day. I'm playing at a place in Greater Los Angeles called the Fireside Cafe, which is in Newbury Park, and that's February 14th. And then I'm playing. My fiance is a wonderful artist in oil paint, an oil painter, and she also teaches art and art history and drawing and painting and design at Cal State Channel Islands and Ventura College. She teaches at both places. And she has an opening of a new show that she's doing in Ventura, California, at a place called the 643 Gallery and it's at 643 Ventura Avenue. And she's done a wonderful series of paintings on endangered species. But the opening is March the 6th at 5 p.m., and I'm going to be playing music at that opening. I play with another group, a 5-piece cover band, and we play at wineries, and we play at mostly our experience has been wineries and breweries. We play cover tunes from the 50s and 60s and 70s. I sing lead and I play rhythm guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And we just did a gig up in Ojai on January 10th. We played at a place called the Deer Lodge. I don't know when our next gig is, but that's what's upcoming. As far as other projects, no, I don't. I take things as they come right now, and I don't. I'm not really worried about it. I'm having fun. I started. I'm old enough to start collecting a pension from Screen Actors Guild, so I have a check comes in every month that pays all my bills. So I do what I want to do these days.
Mm-hmm. I saw your video on YouTube of you doing Shamalama Ding Dong.
Oh, isn't that a beautiful?
That was beautiful. I love that rendition. It was. I mean, I still loved the version in Animal House, but I still like that one too.
Oh, wait a minute! I didn't know they did one in Animal House, did they?
Yeah, that black group, Otis Day and the Knights.
Oh well, this is a different song. It's a different song.
Okay.
Give a listen to it again. I mean, the song that I do is a different version.
Okay, I thought maybe you were just doing different lyrics. Yeah.
No. It's a completely different song written by Jesse Winchester.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did it again, just me and one guitar. I posted it on Facebook somewhere. Now I don't remember where. I think it was the Martin owners, Martin Guitar owners, or something like that. But there it is. I probably could find it if I wanted to. I don't remember. So what else? Anything else that you'd like to ask about?
Oh, do you still teach acting?
No, I taught for 2 years, and I taught back in 1999 through 2001. and I was teaching while I was getting. I went and got a master's degree in theater, and I thought I was going to teach, but it wasn't really. I wasn't really suited to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can be very specific. It's not for everybody.
No, it was. It was certainly wasn't for me. So that was. Yeah, I was teaching scuba diving for a number of years, but I started having some ear problems with equalizing the pressure, and so I wasn't able to continue that. I taught for about 15 years, just because I really, really like scuba. So.
Well, Stephen, I thank you so much for coming on today. Sounds like you still got a lot going on, and that's great. I love it. I love hearing it when people still have a lot going on, because other people they're just sitting and waiting,
No, too much. There's lots and lots of stuff to do and things to see, and I'm really enjoying. I'm really enjoying my life. It's great. Go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week and spend an hour to maintain, and we try to eat well. So my fiance and I do bike rides together. We do hiking. We like to travel, and we ski in the winter. Well, we don't have to wait for winter, but both of us are avid skiers, and we do bike rides around here in Ventura, ride down to the beach and along the boardwalk. Keep active, maintain healthy lifestyles, do things that are interesting and creative. She paints. I play my music and just like I say, we keep active and creative, and we have fun and try to stay healthy and enjoy life and support Democrats.
Awesome. Yes, support the Democratic Party. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we're trying to get Trump out of office. I wish he'd leave and go away and never be heard from again. But because he's really taking the United States in the wrong direction, and he's making the United States a laughing stock, and ruining the credibility of the word of the United States. It's a horrible, horrible thing. But we won't get into it.
No.
Just mention it and leave it at that.
Okay. I'm glad that Ellen Bree could make this connection. We tried to connect with Nicholas Coster, but he never replied my text.
Well, look, Nick's been dealing with his own issues. He's been ill.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's been ill, and he's been dealing with some health issues. I don't know all the details, but I know that he's had some stuff that he's dealing with. So there you have it.
Yeah. Oh, that's sad.
So,
well,
so that may be why you haven't heard back from him.
Mm-hmm. Well, Stephen, thank you so much.
You are most welcome. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
And maybe the next time I'm in LA and you have a gig, I'll come check out.
Sure. That'd be lovely.
Okay.
All right. You take care.
You too, sir.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Stephen Mendel. Ain't he a cool dude? Great guy, talented guy. I like him a lot. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes.